This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Alain Poupart, he is ready to go. Jenna Jameson or Sika?
Who are they? What team do they play for? Sika.
The home team. Home team. There you go. How you doing, my brother? You doing all right?
I'll take A. Yeah, I'm doing very well, thank you.
Yes. TNA. There you go.
That's
all right.
funny.
All right. I love it. All right. So talk to us so far. What's the grade that you're giving? You can't really give much of a grade. Like I said, this process really is like 6 weeks. You got to wait for the whole draft, and there still might be trades and all that. But so far, what do you think about what they're doing?
Meh. That's okay. My grade. My grade is meh.
That's like a C minus. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really like that's really grabbing me. It's to me, the best signing was Teddy Bridgewater, and the guy's going to be a backup. So because you look at all the other guys, and Cedric Wilson's a guy on the rise. Yeah, but he was Dallas's fourth receiver before
a loaded receiving core, by the way.
Yeah, correct. But he was still number 4, and he hadn't done anything in his first 3 years in the NFL. Chase Edmonds is a good. I like the Chase Edmonds pickup, but he's a complimentary player. I hope nobody thinks he's going to come in and rush for 1,200 yards or anything like that. He's going to be part of a rotation because that's what the Dolphins are going to keep doing.
Well, that's what they do anyways, McDaniel.
Oh, correct.
Right, that's their thing, not the Dolphins thing. That's his thing. Yeah, exactly. And Mostert, I like actually that Mostert and Chase are here because Mostert will help, Chase understand what they're trying to do, and I'm sure there's going to be a young guy to the mix in the draft. And then that guy can learn the system from guys like that. And I think that's why a guy like Raheem Mostert is here. He can help you, and he can help groom the younger guys.
Well, yeah, but let's also not forget the fact that or overlook the fact that Raheem Mostert's a massive, massive risk. And I haven't seen the contract. I don't recall what guarantees are involved. It's worth taking a shot, but the guy has had massive knee problems the last few years, and
$3 million is not a.
It's not egregious. I mean, but it's fully guaranteed, and then you're basically flushing $3 million. Again, there are some concerns, and I talked to some people in San Francisco basically saying his knee is shot. So again, I don't mind the risk because when the guys played him, his career average 5.7 yards, which is completely outrageous, and he's really, really fast. So, and I know his agent Brett Tessler has said he'll be ready for training camp, which is certainly something you would expect him to say, and it's certainly worth a shot. But again, with that, I can't say it's a slam dunk great signing because there's a major risk involved. Connor Williams has some ability. He also had 15 penalties last year, which was the second highest number in the entire NFL.
Yeah, but the funny part about that is he had 11 holdings last year.
12 holdings and 3 other penalties. One block.
But he had 10 for the first 3 years. So we kind of
okay, but
so maybe I know, but maybe that was an aberration instead of we're making. But see, the way you came off of it right away, you made it sound like it's a habitual thing. And maybe it was only an aberration. Maybe it was only habitual for 1 year, but it's not what is his career. So normally he doesn't have that many penalties. Normally he doesn't have that many holdings. But the way everybody makes it sound is, this guy's a sack of holds. Well, no, he was just a sack of holds last year.
Correct. But the other thing,
I'm just saying.
Okay, no, that's fine. And he's not. I don't think it's a bad signing. But the other factor, if we're going to be honest about it, he was basically the 4th best lineman on that Dallas offensive line, which, mind you, was a really, really, really good offensive line. And 4th best on that line might very well become the best on the Dolphins line.
We don't even have one guy that compares to any of the 4 guys. I mean,
maybe Robert Hunt, who I like, and who.
But still, he hasn't even. This guy had 650 snaps and 2 sacks. I don't know if anybody can claim that on the Dolphins.
I can tell. I don't know how many sacks Robert Hunt gave up last year. I don't think it's a whole lot. No, and so that's a decent signing. And then on defense, it's basically you're
No,
basically
it's the
running
same
it back. I mean, obviously, we talked about the move to re-sign Agba, which was a must, and
monster.
and I should backtrack on something I said. That's the best move of the offseason, not signing Teddy Bridgewater, but basically you basically running it back on defense with the same crew, hoping that some guys take their game to the next level, that you can duplicate what you've done, except that the mastermind of that defense no longer is there. Plus the fact that you played, I know you're doing this, but the fact that you played a whole bunch of crappy quarterbacks in 2021, which won't be the case in 2022.
No, yeah, definitely. The second half of the season was garbage teams and everybody piled on. But if you improve the offense, then you will improve the defense. Because if you're able to run the ball and you're able to possess the ball and you're able to score more points, then automatically that defense will become even better than it was, last year, because it's going to be playing from a more advantageous position a lot of times. So that, I think, is what they're probably thinking of. And then the other thing is, Alan, I think they're going, well, listen, the defense was solid enough last year. What we really need to do is improve the offense. So that's why you're seeing a couple of running backs, a receiver, a fullback, all these things, because the offensive linemen. And I think they're trying to get. It looks to me like they're trying to make a play for Teron Armstead. Now we're waiting on the whole Deshaun Watson mess, but it looks like they're really focused on trying to get the pieces they need in order to get the offense going more than anything else.
Okay. No, and that's obviously understandable. And yeah, again,
you shouldn't be spending a ton of money on defense. You should be spending your money and your resources on offense, coaching, and everything. And I think that's what they've done.
But to me, I would have liked, give me one impact guy on defense, along with re-signing Agba. Because again, and then
but wait a minute, but Phillips gets better and Javon Holland gets better. You know what I mean? So all of a sudden, your other players, if Van Ginkel, gets better this season, if Raekwon Davis gives you an entire healthy season, all of these kind of things, you have a lot of young defensive players that could get better and make your defensive better as it is already.
Correct. And that's the glass half full viewpoint. I agree. No, and again, when I said I didn't say it was terrible. There's nothing that's been terribly exciting. I didn't like letting Mac Hollins leave, and he got a 1-year contract. I didn't see how much money he got, but he only got a 1-year contract, which basically means I don't think the Dolphins really would have had to strain.
No,
too hard to re-sign him.
That tells me McDaniel didn't think enough of him, is what it tells me.
And then they replaced him with Trent Sherfield this morning, who was a guy who was a special teams player, wide receiver, less accomplished than Mac Hollins as a wide receiver. So I have a hard time believing that they couldn't throw him in.
Some people are thinking, you keep Preston, you let Mac go. And I'm like, nah. Preston, there's no even guarantee that he'll be even on this team.
Oh, I agree.
People need to slow down. I don't believe there's a team that's going to be keeping 6 and 7 receivers anymore. So if you go down to maybe 5 to 6, once you get past the top 3, you start needing guys that have special teams characteristics to it, and Preston doesn't possess any of that. Correct. So I think Preston is only here just in case I think there's a 10% chance he makes this team. Unless the light goes on, Alan, that all of a sudden he becomes a monster that they say, oh my God, we can't let him go. That's the only way I see him sticking. Really?
No, I agree. And then, dude, look at it. They're going to keep the 2 guys they just signed in free agency. They're going to keep Jalen Waddle, obviously, and unless they do something with Parker, that's 4 right there.
Right.
And
Lynn Bowden is more multiple.
Correct.
So he's going to stay for sure, man. That's why they stashed him.
I think they stashed him because he was an asset. There was no reason to let him go. And I think Mike McDaniel looks at Lynn Bowden and goes like,
didn't he have like a funky injury that really you didn't really need to put him on the IR, but they kind of put him on the IR, that kind of deal?
No, correct. But it was basically an issue of he was an asset and they didn't want to they kind of stacked him. But Mike McDaniel's looking at Lynn Bowden thinking, I could do some fun things with him. So
yeah, Bowden, Chase, and Cedric, because Ian Rappaport told us yesterday that they told Cedric that they were going to move him around all over the place. So that's kind of a nugget there about moving him all over. So Chase him, and now this kid, I think you're going to see them move them all over the place, like because they have no Debo, so they'll have like a whole bunch of people play that role.
Multiple Debos. No, and you can do the same thing with Waddle. You can move him around as well. So no,
Right.
I'll be honest with you. I was completely shocked that not only the Dolphins would want to bring back Preston Williams, but that Preston Williams would want to come back to the Dolphins, knowing the situation he was facing. And then, mind you, maybe he was just so incredibly happy that Flores was gone, because if you recall, he was left behind for the game at Buffalo for a violation of team rules. Had a really, really bad year. Every time I saw him play, the dude was not creating any separation whatsoever. He was dropping a couple of passes. I mean, he was nowhere near the guy we saw in flashes his first 2 years in 2019 and 2020. So, but again, it's a low cost. And if he happens to go back to that form he showed as a rookie when he did look pretty good, then great. If not, then you move on.
Obviously, the dedication in the run game was magnified yesterday when they added the fullback, right? I mean, what's that? You're like, holy crap, these guys are they really want to fix the running game here. Okay. So that's another thing that we got to look at. And we say, okay, all these elements, I think, and the way he coaches will give his players also an advantage.
It was a complete slam dunk. They were picking up a fullback. In fact, I wrote it that they were like four. Let's say there are five like really big names at fullback in the NFL. Well, Juszczyk at Frisco is not going anywhere, and the other four were Pat Ricard at Baltimore, Andy Janovich in Cleveland, Alec Kingold with the Raiders, and my buddies in Las Vegas were like completely baffled that they didn't tender him as a restricted free agent and therefore made him a UFA, which is why the Dolphins signed him. And then the other one is Jacob Johnson from New England, who also wasn't tendered, and who wound up signing back with Josh McDaniels, and it was a complete slam dunk. And I know somebody hit me up on Twitter. Well, yeah, the Dolphins signed John Lovett, tight end / fullback, in February, except he's one of those who signed a reserve future contract. And again, since this needs to be said, those guys basically make the 53-man roster 5% of the time. So the Dolphins didn't really have a fullback on the roster, even though they had a fullback on the roster.
No, this guy's
and this guy's legit. Although, again, playing devil's advocate, he is coming off a torn ACL, though you don't necessarily need a ton of speed to play fullback.
Yeah, and ACLs for me are nothing anymore. They're not an injury I worry about. You can rehab and get back from an ACL nowadays. When we were young, it was a mission. Nowadays, ACLs are a joke, dude. Oh. They come back from those things. So
again, especially when you're a fullback and you don't need speed. So.
Yeah, you don't need the speed. You're right. It's not one of those. But he can block too, man.
And he can catch out of the backfield.
Yeah. It's amazing how that's a lost art, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, the fullback was like a normal thing, and that position just absolutely disappeared in the NFL, man. It's like watching a center with his back to the basket. Like that doesn't exist anymore. You know, you rarely see that guy anymore. He's got to be facing the basket 22 feet away is the way the centers play now. It's nuts.
No, and mind you, the Dolphins drafted a fullback 2 years ago and basically never used him and then wound up cutting him.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, this guy will use him. Yep. There's no doubt about that. All right. So are you thinking that they're still in the market for Teron Armstead or any of these other tackles that are available, or JC Tretter hasn't signed with anybody yet, right?
Correct.
That's another, man. I personally would rather have Tretter than Armstead. I think you can go get a tackle in the draft and then have all three, 4 guys that you have there compete for all those. I would love to solidify the middle of that line with the center and the two guards. But you tell me, what do you think? Center, or are they still in the market for one of these tackles that are left?
I think if when the Cowboys go ahead and do the move with Lyle Collins, that's something they would certainly evaluate.
You're saying as a release?
Correct. Correct.
Not a trade, but a release.
Correct. And there's some risk involved there. There's some risk involved with Armstead, considering age, injury, and price. And I'm going to throw this out there too. I would not be shocked And the next time we speak with Mike McDaniel, I'm going to ask him this. I would not be shocked if they wound up moving Robert Hunt back to right tackle.
I wouldn't either.
I
wouldn't either. Although I think Eichenberg is the one that should go there, but I get you.
I'm not sure, but again, you're looking for mobile offensive lineman and offensive tackle, and Liam Eichenberg, not really his forte. He's more like a technician type of guy, and I kind of struggle a little bit to see what his perfect fit is for this scheme. And I look at Robert Hunt, and to me, he's like screams right tackle for the scheme. So I don't know that they'll do that. I'm just thinking that that's a move that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, that's definitely an interesting one there. Obviously, Alain Poupart joining us here for Sports Grill Miami Dolphins Insider Report. What are you working on Sports Illustrated so folks can check you out, my friend?
Okay, well, we're going to do an episode of the mailbag this afternoon. And I did this morning where we talked about the wide receiver core and where it stands after the signing of Trent Sherfield. And then whatever else develops in the afternoon in terms of news and potential news. And, we're still in that first week. At some point, I'm going to do an overall big picture on what this free agency has looked like and what's been accomplished, but I may wait until tomorrow to do that.
All right. Follow him on Twitter at Poupart NFL and bookmark his Sports Illustrated page. It is a must, ladies and gentlemen. Alain, thank you, my brother. As always, I appreciate you.
Have a good weekend, my man.
You got it. We will catch you next week. Alain Poupart.